Welcome to the Unscripted podcast. My name's Corby LaCroix, and the song you're hearing right now is called Great and Mighty One, available on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your music. But for now, here's your host and my friend, Aaron Conrad.
Great Redeemer, God of grace.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Unscripted from my studios in Old Hilliard, and this is a reboot. A week ago, not even a week ago, we sat down and we did this interview, and my microphone was completely destroyed, and so we have to come back, and so he was kind enough to take time today. First of all, who is my guest, and we will go from there.
All right, Curt Harding, a good friend of Aaron's and a good friend of the show, and I'm a big fan too, so happy to be back.
Friend of show. This is so just so everybody knows, the second or third episode we ever recorded was with you. And
Wow.
The reason why was because you're just an incredible individual. And when I first started, and really every episode since, I wanted to introduce people to amazing people. And you're one of those amazing people. So welcome back again for the, I guess, third time for our purposes, but for this audience, the second time. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Well, all right. So we've got, since our first episode, and the reason why I wanted to re-record was because the first episode was, again, episode 2 or 3, and this stuff gets buried in the archives. So since our first episode, you've done two things. One, you had a little minor procedure that we'll talk about, and you gave away your daughter. So
I did, yeah.
When we say minor procedure, it was not a minor procedure. It was a big deal. So can we start? Let's just start with the minor procedure, which was not a minor procedure that you actually had. Can we start there?
Absolutely, yeah. So I had been feeling a little out of shape, and I'm in okay shape. I take care of myself, and I was having trouble going upstairs. I mean, I was getting out of breath, and it was just different from what I normally feel. So I don't even have a doctor. I haven't had a doctor in like a decade. So I just Googled doctors in my area that's close to work, and I ended up finding one, and they immediately went to the heart. They said that your heart's just not sounding right. It's not pumping correctly. And I thought, this is why I don't go to doctors. Right. You know, you go all the way to heart. I mean, really, we're going to leap to that, right? But they were absolutely 100% correct. It turns out that I had a birth defect, and my aortic valve was completely toast. I mean, they said it was like an 80-year-old. This thing just was not working at all. So the heart was working overtime, and that's why I was having trouble going upstairs, and I was having trouble doing a lot of things, even doing my own podcast. It was just hard to breathe. I just didn't have any lung capacity, and I was having trouble speaking, and it was just very strange. So I had open heart surgery. They could not do it through a vein. It had to be open heart, and that was, wow. It's still weird saying it out loud, even though it's been since December now. It's been 5 months. It is still just shocking to even say that I had open heart surgery, but they had to go in there and they had to fix it, and they did. And now I'm part cow, which is really interesting.
Right. So that was something we talked about. You're a part cow, and so could we talk about the procedure itself? What went into the procedure? Because I know our band of brothers, and we're in a text string together. There's a lot of guys locally. Which one of my favorite things is how there's a lot of bad about social media, and we can rant on that all day. But one of the things that's so cool about social media is there's people locally. There's people in my village that have if we were to draw circles, the two circles intersect in the middle, and my village has become part of your village, and those guys were praying for you, which I love so much about. So as much as people get upset about social media, I'm a fan because our villages can connect. And so our village was praying for you. So can you talk about the procedure? Because I know there was a whole lot of guys that were praying for you during that procedure.
Oh, man. Absolutely. And I felt that. I felt that because that was not an easy thing to come back from. It was, they didn't tell me a whole lot going in. And the doctor said to me, please don't Google this stuff.
Right.
Don't go to WebMD.
Don't. Yeah, absolutely.
Just don't. Don't worry about it. I got this. I've done this a million times.
For real.
So I didn't. I really didn't do a lot of homework. I just thought this is going to be the worst thing ever. And it really wasn't in hindsight. But it was tough, and I did feel those prayers. It was so great just hearing from people from elementary school all the way to today. I just was supported so much, and it really, really made the healing process a lot smoother, because really it was tough. You know, my days consisted of going from the bed to the shower to my chair, and that was considered a successful day.
Right.
And so it was tough. You know, being cracked open like that, it's very tough on that muscle, that chest muscle. It's hard to sleep, and you certainly don't want to cough or sneeze. Oh my gosh. I found every way to stop sneezing ever known to man.
You didn't watch episodes of The Office because it would probably be too hard on laughing.
No. Somebody said I should look at this, I should watch the David Chappelle special on Netflix.
Right.
And they said, oh, that'll make you feel so much better since you're laid up at home. I watched about 34 seconds of that, and I could not.
She would laugh at this.
It was too much. Too much.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So let me ask you this. We didn't cover this on our episode that will never air because my microphone was jacked up. Let me ask you this. When going into heart surgery is a little different than I had my gallbladder removed. I wasn't getting my affairs in order before that surgery. Yeah. And I'm not literally, I don't mean to laugh or minimize. Going into a heart surgery, that's different. It's very different. What did it change your perspective on things before you went into the surgery? And were there conversations that you felt like you needed to have? Because I think that's a conversation for us to have is, why do we wait until then? But let me ask you that first. As you were going into this is a major surgery. This is a big deal. And now we're laughing and joking, but this is a big deal. Did it change your perspective prior to and post?
Yeah. Yeah, it really, I am an optimist, right. Always have been. So when I found out what was happening, when I got over the initial shock of it, I really believed that I was going to be fine. I really believed that it was going to be okay. I just didn't want to go through it. You know what I mean? Right. I didn't want to have to do it. I didn't want to go through the pain and, all of that. But it didn't really dawn on me until about the day before that it is very possible I might not come home.
Right.
That was the first day it really hit me, is the day before. Right. And that is when I sat down at my desk and I wrote letters to my daughters and my wife and my parents. And they were just thank you letters. Yeah. It was cool how they turned out, because of course when you first started, it's terrible. You're thinking, how do I address this? Right. But it ended up just being thank you letters. Thank you for letting me be your dad. Thank you for letting me be your son. And I just had the time of my life. I mean, I have had an unbelievable life. And so they were tough to write, but at the same time, if you're writing a thank you letter, it's fairly easy because you've got a lot of great things to thank people for. And so that's how I approach that.
So I can't even begin to imagine, as a dad, as a husband, as a son, as a brother, what it would be like to sit down with a pen and paper the night before a surgery. And I don't want to go dark because again, you're here. You're here, and that's the positive. But where do you even begin to start to write those kind of letters? I think it's just such a reminder for all of us that we are here, but a mist. And again, I don't want to go dark, but I think it's such a reminder that we're not promised. I'm not promised 5 minutes from now. I'm really not. And so pause there, because what I want to say to everyone is, what I appreciate about Curt Harding and why he's on this episode is because he has lived his life with joy, with purpose, and being a storyteller and all those things that, God forbid, if something would have happened in that surgery, you would have had no regrets. From my perspective, as a friend of yours, I would have said that guy had no regrets.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
Anyone listening to this today, live that way.
Yeah.
Live that way, because, the night before a surgery, if you're sitting down to write letters, it's too late. I mean, what you should have said should be said. I'm preaching, but what you should have said should have been said. How you loved your wife should have been how you loved your wife. How you loved your friends should have been how you loved your friends. How you went to work every day should have been how you went to work every day.
Yeah.
And I think you would say this. I don't want to speak for you, but so I'm on a little bit of a rant. But I guess I'm just saying, don't wait till the night before major surgery. And I know you didn't, is what I really want to say is you didn't. And as what I know of you is that you live your life that way. And should have anything have happened in that surgery, there's no one I know of that would have been like, well, the guy probably should have checked some boxes before he went into surgery. No.
Yeah.
That's not you. So anyway, I'm sorry for that.
And it was also cool just to point out some things that people brought to my life, even my daughters. They're only 21 years old, but in the letter I was thanking them for letting me be their dad, and I was also just bringing up little things that happened throughout their life, like things that just made me laugh, or I love when you did this and that, and I hope you continue to forge forward and do the things, be fearless like you always have been. And that's also important, is just pointing out the things that they've meant to you as well. And that's why it turned out to be an easy letter to write. And I don't mean that it was hard, but it was easy to come up with the words, because I only wanted to write a page or two. And I ended up just, doing this 3-page thing, because when you really start going, there's a lot to write to somebody,
Right.
But it was important to do, because I was like, man, I know I'm going to be fine, but if wouldn't it be cool for them to have this forever? So that's why I did it.
Well, I'm so glad we got to re-record, because we didn't cover that in our first recording.
Right.
And I think what we just talked about is really important for anyone listening. And again, why I appreciate you so much and love your mentorship in my life because of the way you live yours. So
thank you.
Okay. So you mentioned your 2 daughters. You gave one of them away. That was the other big thing that we talked about. So what was it like being the father of the bride? Wow.
Well, first of all, thank you for your Steve Martin tweets. That was great. There was there's some downtime when you're getting ready for the wedding, and I'm just like on my phone, sitting in the pew, waiting, for my next instructions. Dad, you need to be over here.
Wait. I think it was like 40. It was probably 20 to 40 minutes before go time. It was like
Probably,
like kickoff was like 20 or 40 minutes away, and I sent you a text expecting no return, expecting no response, and you're like, "Yeah, doing pretty good. Just
doing fine.
We're about 20 minutes away." like, dude, put away your.
Yeah, I'm just sitting there going, let's get this show on the road,
Right.
But it was great. But it was just a perfect day, perfect weather, perfect venue. It was in Little Dixon, Tennessee, which I had never heard of. I had no idea what I was going into. I thought it was just a wooded area where I wouldn't even get any reception. But it was a beautiful, beautiful ceremony. The faith in that building. One of the most faithful weddings I've ever been. God was in that building, and that was terrific. And it just makes a dad feel so much better. I love the kid. He's great. My new son-in-law, he's great. And just knowing how much faith is in their marriage, and it just made that a lot easier. And walking her down the aisle, I was totally fine. I was together. I was doing great until about halfway down. And all of a sudden, my brain told me, you could have missed this if you wouldn't have gone in for that heart thing. You could have missed this. And that's when I still kept it together, but that's when I really started. The walk was a little difficult after that.
Yeah.
But it was all wonderful. It was all great. And I just took my seat and watched this beautiful ceremony, and I'll never forget it.
Well, we talked about, I think you said it, guys, don't mess around. I mean, if you're not feeling right, if you're not feeling well, if you're not, because as you just said, there's a chance you may not have been able to do that. So guys, if you're listening, or wives, if you're listening, make sure your guy goes to the hospital. Make sure if he's not
especially if
well,
something just feels different. The reason I went to the doctor is to get like a workout plan. I was like, this feels different. So do I need to lose 10 pounds? Do I need to? What do you think? Do I need to play more tennis? That was my whole reason for going, because it just felt different than your normal sluggishness. So definitely go to the doctor and be honest with that doctor and tell him, this just feels odd. I mean, I remember sitting at my desk and sort of dreading going out to my car. It was like, wow, I got to walk all the way to my car. And that's when I said, well, why is that a problem? Yeah. So you got to be in tune with your body, and you got to be honest.
And you got, and because you want to be there for the moments, whether it's your son, daughter, wife, you got to be there, and you want to be there. So we celebrated with you. I gotta imagine the party ain't no party like a Harding party. I'm just gonna say. I mean, seriously.
Yeah. I was maybe a little lucky that there wasn't a lot of video being taken, but hey, that's all right. It's all on the dance floor now.
That's perfect. One of the things you mentioned was. So you are, I am a New Edition honk. I mean, I'm a New Edition guy. You are a Huey Lewis guy.
Yes.
And, the father-daughter dance was, a song by Huey Lewis. And most people are probably like, hang on, that doesn't make, but can you tell a story about the father-daughter dance?
Yeah, I did not know what it was going to be, and I went out on the floor, and I still didn't recognize it, and I held my daughter, and I started dancing, and then I realized that it was a remake of The Power of Love done in a ballad. I don't know who the female artist is, but she's terrific, and it was really good, and that was super touching, because she did that for me. She knows. Yeah. I mean, I dragged her to a Huey Lewis concert once, so she knows that my obsession.
Yeah. Well, now I'm trying really hard on. You're not gonna make me cry. No, because Gary Miracle makes me cry, and I'm not going to do it on this episode.
Okay, good.
I'm not going to do it. But just knowing that your daughter did something special for you because your dog is named Huey Lewis. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's correct. Yeah, and now it's her dog, so she will have to live with Huey Lewis for at least 15 years. Which is just a great dad thing to do to a kid.
So perfect. It's seriously perfect. I'm going to pawn off Websy when the time comes, because that would be wonderful if we could get rid of Websy. Anyway, all right. So all right. Next, transitioning, because so last week when you and I had talked, I was coming off of a day where I went home. So I went home to be with a friend of mine who's going through a bad way. And while I was home, I visited the house that built me, to quote Miranda Lambert, knocked on the door and spent some time with the current owner, which was awesome. I'm forever thankful for her time. But it reminded me of a time, I think it was about a year ago, where you also went through a journey where you just took some time off. I'm not going to put words in your mouth. Can you talk about the time where you just took some time to find yourself a little bit?
Yeah. And this was before I found out about the heart. But I had been feeling just off, and, hindsight tells you maybe that was part of it. But I was definitely feeling off last summer, and I had what I guess is a panic attack, which I've never had before. Here at work, I had to leave a meeting, and I went into my car, and I started crying more than I've ever cried in my entire life for almost no reason. And it was as if somebody had just killed somebody I know. I mean, that's how hard it hit me. And that's really scared me. And I knew right then that I needed to take some time off. So I went home to Michigan, where I'm originally from, kind of a small town, Saginaw, 100 miles north of Detroit. And I just went back and just connected. I saw my buddy who I met when I was 5 years old, when we played Matchbox cars together, and I went back to my high school and my elementary school and drove all the same streets that I was on. And I touched the cement where I wrote Curt 1972 in the cement with a stick. It was just a very great way of just feeling safe again. Especially at my high school. I shot a video, which is a little bit hard for me to watch now because I'm not there anymore. So you're looking at a chapter that you're not in anymore, which is interesting. But I shot the video and just tried to explain what I was going through and why I was outside of my high school, where things made sense, where I was really happy and I knew what the next day and the day after that was going to be, and the day after that, and all the friends I was going to see, and all the stability. That's what I wasn't feeling. I wasn't feeling stable. I was feeling overwhelmed by the world. All the things that really shouldn't bother you because they're not in your control. But at that moment, everything was bothering me. So it really was. It was a great way of just going back and connecting. And as I said in the video, there was a time I just wanted to sit there and breathe. And that's what I did. And it really was therapeutic. I recommend doing it, whatever that connection is for you, because I understand high school isn't that for a lot of people. It's the opposite of that for a lot of people. But
For sure.
But to go back and do something where you really felt safe and good and the world was good, and just relive that a little bit, I recommend it. It was very, very therapeutic for me.
And I love that because that's exactly what I did. I went down the street that I grew up on. I said the names in my head of all the people. I told my wife I never realized how many people I went to high school with lived on our street. And so it was, I drove by this house and that house, and I was saying their last names as I drove down. I drove by the house that I got beat up every day when I went to my piano lesson. And like you said, it's not necessarily a great memory, but it is a memory.
Yeah.
And that is what shaped who I am today. And then, as I said, I went to a gas station, and I was standing in the gas station in Bedford, Ohio, and there's a song called Damaged by TLC. That was playing on the radio. I remember this stuff because I'm an empath. That was on the radio. The girl behind the counter was singing. I was standing in an aisle and I was singing. And almost audibly, I heard, "You're home. You're home. These are your people."
Yeah.
And that was healing for me. I think we get away from who we were. What built us. There's apps and there's just life. We'll just cover it with a big old life Band-Aid, but life happens and we forget who we were, the joy that we had, what built us. And so that for me was important. And when I was home, I thought about you driving home from that, because I know you did the same thing. So again, we're not recommending everybody hop in their car and go back to their hometown. Maybe it's different for everyone. You said that. Maybe it's your college. Maybe it's a house you grew up in. Maybe it's I don't know what that is for you, but go do that. Take time. Take a day. Take a mental day. And go do that, because you'll be amazed at how much it will just inspire you again, like to find yourself.
100%. And I said in the video that I realized the windshield is bigger than the rearview mirror for a reason.
100%.
I'm always looking forward. I'm always pushing and going forward. But every once in a while, it's okay to look back, because that's where your friends were. And that's where your parents, your young parents were. And that's where your church was, that's where you were introduced to God, maybe, whatever it is for you. Nothing wrong with glancing in that rearview mirror for just a time and then straightening yourself up and going forward. That's what it was all about.
Again, we didn't talk about this on the first episode, so I'm so glad we're redoing this. You have a scar. For you, that scar is a memory. And so as we're talking about this, maybe looking back in that, is a scar for someone, but it's there for a reason. And it's to remind us of something. And so if you get a chance, go do that. Take the time. And I want to transition to that, because I think we're talking about mental health. And you had a post last week, I believe it was. This month is set aside by the world or whoever sets these things as Mental Health Awareness Month, when reality is every month should be Mental Health Awareness Month, especially now more than ever. But you had a post that you wrote. Can you talk about that post and what drove you to it, and then some of the tips that you had in that post, because it's really important?
Yeah. So the post is called My Flu. And it's on curtharding.com. And basically I came up with that title because that's what it feels like for me, the fighting of anxiety and some depression in my past feels like a flu, because it comes and goes, and it's usually gone for, it could be years, but it rears its ugly head. And it's important to identify what that is, identify its power, which was one of the things I wanted to write about. I know that it wants to destroy me, and there are things that I have to intentionally do to fight back. I have to be aware of it. I have to know when it's coming on, and there are things I have to do to remain well. And a couple of those things are garbage in, garbage out. Make sure that you're not letting in a bunch of garbage. That's media, that's toxicity, that's people. Whatever it is for you that may trigger you, or just any kind of negativity or gossip or anything like that, just realize you have to stay away from that, and you can't participate in that. You just realize what it is for you. That I talked about an herb that I take, St. John's wort, which has been just a lifesaver. I notice when I'm running low on those and I don't take them. It's just an herb that helps me. It's 3 times a day, and it just becomes part of my routine. Asking for help. It's so easy to withdraw and go into your own shell when you're feeling bad, and you want to do that because you don't want to be a burden to anyone. But I have to ask for help, and I will be up front, and I'll look you in the eye and say, "Hey, will you help me?" And I wasn't doing that at one time, and I could feel that. That was a mistake. Connection. We all really, really need connection. The pandemic was probably the exclamation point on this, when we were all told to disconnect, basically, because that's going to save us. A lot of people were cheering. The introverts out there were like, "Yes, finally, I don't have to connect." But that's not how we were designed. God did not design us to be disconnected from one another. We need each other. And if we don't connect with one another, then we're not going to be well. And if we can't be well, we can't help others be well. And so that was the point of writing that whole thing. And I'm hoping it helps a lot of people, because there were about 20 tips or so of things that I do. I love what somebody wrote under the post. They wrote, "This sounds like good advice just for life, whether you have anxiety or not," which was a great compliment.
100%. And one of the things we talked about in the last episode that won't make it to print is the song by Ed Sheeran called Save Myself. And after our episode, I went back and listened to it. And honestly, Curt, I sat at my desk and I cried, which is on brand for me. But that song is so powerful, because you said something the last time, and you said, and I'm not going to do it justice. You basically said, for any of us that have flown, I have to put my oxygen mask on before I can put someone else's on. Ed Sheeran's song, Save Myself, talks about, in order to save someone else, I've got to save myself.
Yeah.
So as we talk about mental health, and in his song, he actually talks about, I gave my oxygen to everyone, to people that could breathe, I think is the lyric. I gave my oxygen to everyone that could breathe. And yet he was not able to breathe. And so I think for us, it's so important as a dad, as a husband, as a friend, as a whatever, a wife, a spouse, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, or what, you name it, we have to, before we can save someone else, we have to save ourselves. Before we can, I'll let you say it, what you said so well the last time about oxygen, because I think that's what you and I found when we went home was, I got to save myself. I have to find who I am, because if not, what happens is we tend to give, and then all of a sudden we are the ones that are a mess, right? I don't know. Yeah. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Well, I think you and I, one of the reasons we connect so well is that we both have a heart for people. And when you have a heart for people, you do want to help everything. You want to just be there for everyone. But you have to take care of yourself. I mean, think of it as a gas tank. You know, you've got to fill your tank so that you can take people places. And if your tank gets low and you're just neglecting yourself, then you're not going to be any good for any others. So that was the reason for going home. That was the reason for being up front with the blog, is just to make sure that people know I am here for you. I had to be there for myself at first to get re-energized and refueled. And yeah, I definitely needed that oxygen for a little while so that I could help you with yours. And that's what we're all about. That's what we're supposed to be all about. You know, God told us to love one another, and he knew exactly how hard that was going to be.
Oh, I love that line. Yeah. Say that one more time, please.
He did not say love one another and go, well, that'll be easy for them because they're all humans and they all, he said love one another and made that a command because he knew how difficult that would be for us.
That's mic drop. Absolute mic drop. And what I love about you too is you live that. So, one of the things we talked about is you work for Dave Ramsey. Mm-hmm. Shout out Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
And you're actually in his studios right now, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But as a part of that, you take 20 something people to lunch. We had a pretty good conversation around Gen Z, and the misunderstanding of Gen Z. So can you talk about taking 20-somethings to lunch?
Yeah. And this goes back to connectivity. When you're connecting, think about who you should connect with and who you can connect with. And sometimes that's a completely out of the box kind of thing to do. And for me, it's a lot of the young people that work in this building. So we've got 1,000 employees here, and they're all age groups, but there are a lot of 20-somethings, a lot of super smart, techie kind of people that, you're the dumbest guy in the room when you walk in a lot of times,
For real.
But one of the things I do is just make sure once a month at least I connect with one of these Gen Zs or millennials. I'm not sure where the line is, but but I definitely get with them and just ask them how their life is going, and they are amazed by that. They're amazed that I'm taking notice of them, that I see them, that I hear them, and they are really quick to ask for advice and ask about just how I got here and our journeys together, and we compare notes, and it is awesome, and I love this generation. I absolutely do. They don't know the word no. They ask if something has been done a certain way and why haven't we tried that lately, and have we ever tried this? And they've just got all this energy, and it energizes me because I want to be up there with them. I don't want to be the old guy in the corner, right?
Right.
So I just
I think one of the things go ahead.
Yeah, I just take a lot of energy from them because it's just something that they can't help it. They're just exploding with energy, and I love it.
One of the things we talked about was one of the ways that they're so misunderstood is they don't want to own anything, and people say that as a negative. Mm-hmm. Well, because they don't want to own anything, it's because they're compassionate, and that they're not. You work for Dave Ramsey, you know what people like our age are under clouds of debt, and they have rung up credit cards, and now we could go on a whole nother rant, but because we have a home and a mortgage and a car and this and that and a college debt, like we have taken on a ton of debt, and we can't be compassionate even if we want to because our wallet's empty.
Yeah, for sure.
So when you say, well, they don't want to take on any debt, they don't want to own anything, is that a bad thing? Like, seriously, is that a bad thing? Because at the end of the day, they're probably the most compassionate people I've ever been around because they have the flexibility to do so. Mm-hmm. I'm ranting again, but wouldn't you agree that they don't want to own anything? And that's not a bad thing. That should not be looked at as a negative.
Yeah. I'll tell you what they're passionate about. They're passionate about experiences over material things.
Right.
They want experiences. They would much rather travel to Italy for 2 weeks than they would have, 3 PCs and 3 rooms. Right. And it just, that's how they're wired. They want experiences, and they have a real strong sense of social justice. They want things to be fair. And I know life isn't always fair, but when someone's mistreated in any way, a Gen Z will go off on them. I mean, they're 100%. Throwing hands. They are ready,
right.
Because they're going to protect people. And this is my greatest sense of hope as I look forward into the future. I just think that things like racism and bigotry and all these things are just going to die on the vine eventually, because I think young people are just going to be like, why are you doing that when we have these other things to do? I just really believe in this generation.
I love that you take them to lunch because I think we have so much to learn. And our learning is not going to be on Twitter or on Facebook or on Instagram. Mm-hmm. It's going to be sitting across the table in a coffee shop, at a lunch, at Chipotle, wherever it might be, having conversation, just like you and I are right now.
Yes.
I can't understand you if I don't understand you, and I can't understand you because of your tweet. Mm-hmm. I need to know you, and thankfully I've gotten to know you. So hopefully in this episode, people have gotten to know you as well. Where can people find you? Because we haven't even talked about it. You have a podcast. You start a podcast right after ours, and it's awesome. It's way better. It's way polished. It's not messy like mine is. It sounds awesome, but it's inspirational. And my favorite part is it's short.
Very.
Mine are like an hour. So yours are. So can you talk about your podcast?
Yeah. So I had no idea what I was doing in the podcast world. I had no clue. And I'm an old radio guy, and I've been on television and things. But with this new technology, I had no idea what I was doing. So when you started yours, I was like, man, Aaron's doing it, man. He's making it happen. He's not just talking about it. He's actually got guests and he's doing it. So I need to do that. So I'll tell you what I did. I bought a microphone, and it was an expensive microphone. And that was what really pushed me, because I'm like, you better start something now, because your wife's going to go, why'd you buy that microphone?
You got the expense now.
Yeah.
You need the revenue. Yeah.
So yeah, I had no idea what I was doing. So I didn't want to jump into guests right away, because again, I didn't know what I was doing. And also 2020 hit, and getting with guests was not as easy. So I thought, maybe I should just do like 4 or 5 minute short inspirational storytelling type of things that I've just seen in my life and felt and lived throughout my life. So that's what it is. It's the Short Pause Podcast. It's on Apple and Spotify. You can find it. They're 4 to 5 minutes, and hopefully you hear that and you go away with just a good feeling and a feeling of hope. And that's the whole goal of what they are.
So I'd recommend start your day with the Short Pause Podcast with Curt. And then if podcasts aren't your thing, the website. Isn't that so you have a website, you are a writer, you are a storyteller. And as you said at some point in this episode, we care about people. We love people. I think that's why you and I connect so much, is we love the story.
Yeah.
I don't get caught up in all the rest of it. What I love is that every one of us has a story, and that's never going to go out of style, because we all have one.
Yeah.
And so the podcast is Short Pause Podcast. And CurtHarding.com. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. Curt with a C.
Curt with a C, Harding.com. Sign up there. Go to the website. Check it out. Check out his blog, because there's some great stuff written there. He's an incredible storyteller and an incredible writer. They can find you on Facebook, right?
Yes, absolutely. And Instagram, too. My
Instagram.
kids made me do that.
I was going to say, is that like in the last week? Because I don't know if you had an Instagram.
Yeah.
But he is on Twitter. So
Yes.
at Curt Harding with a C. At
Right.
Curt Harding on Twitter. That's where you and I have kept. By the way, I heard that our table is now ready at the Mellow.
Yes.
That's an inside joke. Nobody else will understand.
Right.
But anyway,
It is
our
finally
table's
ready.
now
Though.
ready.
Yes, and there's a new blog up today on CurtHarding.com that talks about loneliness, and it goes back to this connectivity thing. Loneliness is literally killing us, and there are things that you can do to make sure that you're not lonely. And there are people that are married with a big family and a bunch of friends that are still super lonely. And so, yeah, that's new today. If you go to that and just see how you can combat that. And we talked about one of them, and that's connecting with people. But there are some other little nuggets there.
I can't wait to read it, because honestly, I'll be in a room full of people and be completely lonely. Not to be transparent, but seriously, like, that's more personality style than anything else. I think as empaths, we do that. But I've been in multiple rooms where there was a bazillion people, and I was completely lonely and alone. And that's nobody's fault. That's mine. I got to figure out how to do that. So now I want to go read the podcast. I want to go read the blog post. So, all right, my friend, thank you. Thank you for 2.0, for 3.0 for you and I, because we've already recorded once and it didn't work out. Thank you for everything. We were so scared. I don't, my life and my world wouldn't be the same if Curt Harding wasn't in it. And I'm really glad that the surgery went well, and that the world still has a Curt Harding in it, because this world's a better place with Curt Harding in it. So, man, that didn't happen on the last episode, but that's just real. Welcome to Unscripted.
Yeah. Thank you.
I love you, brother. Man, thank you so much. I'm glad the surgery went well. I'm going to lean on you real heavily when I got to let my princesses walk down that aisle. And, man, I'm just really glad for Dave Schrader. Shout out Dave Schrader, because we wouldn't know each other without him. So
that's right.
Anyway.
That's exactly true. I mean, he's good for something. That's awesome.
That's not right. That ain't right, man. That ain't right. No, Dave Schrader's the best of us. I got to get him back on again. But all right, CurtHarding.com, the Short Podcast, at Curt Harding on Twitter, on Facebook, Curt Harding with a C. Find my guy, make him a part of your village. Trust me, it'll be worth every minute of it. Man, I love you. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate this, and it's always great to see you.
All right, brother. I don't know about that. I got a face for radio. So, all right. We are not Right Said Fred. Curt and I can't go out because people think we're Right Said Fred.
Yeah, that's right. And we're too sexy for this podcast. So
now people are Googling who Right Said Fred is. But we're too sexy. We're too sexy for this podcast. We're too sexy. So, anyway, all right. I love you. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for coming on.
All right. See ya.
See you, brother. Bye.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Unscripted Podcast with your host, Aaron Conrad. Make sure to like, share, follow, and review on your favorite podcast platforms. Also, make sure to check out my song Great and Mighty One on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you find your music. We'll see you next time on Unscripted with Aaron Conrad.